Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 20, because John didn't know the answer to that question, mate. That's the first time.
That's a first.
Yeah.
Actually, I thought it was, but I wanted to make sure.
Always got an answer. What makes me memorable? I mean, is it my lowest price? Is it the fact I've got 100% natural products or solutions or remedies? Have I got a proven track record? Is because I've been in business for 504 years? Whatever it is, or I don't know. What is it makes me memorable? That's what we're talking about, okay? So, and the reason I brought this up is because during the week, I got a really good email from John about one thing in particular. Do you recall, John? It's about price.
Yeah.
And price can make, it's part of being memorable. Now, can we start with you on that, John? Because there are various ways we can look at price. Okay, and can I just move it over to you so you can share your
Sure.
thoughts, and we'll get on to
Sure.
and Tina have to say as well.
Now, one of the things when you look at pricing, if you just build your business on price, you're heading for the basement. And the reason for it is somebody can always beat your price, especially the big guys. They can afford to take lots of losses. As small business owners, we can't afford to do that. The other thing that comes up about price is people say, well, I can have premium prices, which is great. Do you have the value to go with those premium prices? Because if all you're doing is raising your price, but you're not giving any more value, or people don't see the value of that higher price, it's not going to mean anything. Yes, you hear me talk about pricing all the time. You can be the Gucci store and sell on value, or you could be the Walmart and scratch for the chickens. It's your choice, or be in between. The thing that I want to mention about that is a lot of business owners, they look at it and say, oh gosh, I can't raise my price. I'll lose customers or I'll lose clients. When you stop and think about it, do groceries go up in price all the time? I don't know about where you are, but they sure do here in Canada.
They certainly
Does
do.
gas go up in price? Yeah. Do we quit buying gas, or do we quit buying groceries because price went up? No. But most small business owners haven't raised their price in years because they're been so ingrained with everybody shops price. When you look at it, price is usually fourth, fifth, maybe even sixth down on the level of when people go shopping. If price was their biggest concern, there wouldn't be any high-end stores, right? Because everybody be looking for the cheapest deal. When you think about your prospects, when they reach out to you, especially in the age we live in now, they've already researched you on the internet. 99% of the time, I'd be willing to bet you're not the cheapest. They're not looking for the cheapest deal. What they're looking for is somebody to say, can you solve my problem? And they know they need help. They know they're going to have to spend money. They also know they're not looking for the cheapest deal. If they were, they'd just go through and find it, and you'd be eliminated. So don't sell just on price. You try to sell just on price, you're screwed. And again, the other part about price is a lot of people are scared to mention it when they're giving their presentation, because, oh gosh, what are they going to think? No, they know that if they want to hire you, there's a cost involved. Be proud of your price. Do you have unwavering belief that the service you provide is what these people need, if they want it? It's not just, everybody and their dog wants it. It has to be that person has to want your service. So now, do you have the unwavering belief that your service or products will solve that problem? And that they're worth every penny that you're charging. Because so many people come along and say their program's $1,000, $2,000, it doesn't matter. Well, my program is $1,000. Do you really think anybody's going to buy when you come across wimpy like that? Say, the investment in yourself, not in me, but the investment in yourself is only $1,000. How do you want to handle it? Right? Be proud and confident of what you have, because if you're not, neither will they. So, look at pricing. And the other part is, we hear people talk about they've got a low entry price, a medium price, and a high price. Does that always work? For some businesses, yes. For other businesses, no. Because if you want to attract the affluent people, they're not price shopping. They want the value for what they're looking for. So be prepared to show them that you have the value that they want. Those people aren't going to come to a free webinar, the affluent ones. They aren't going to get on a free discovery call with you. They may, but what they want is to make sure that you have what they're looking for. Kristine, you've been in business for many, many years. How did you find the business world?
Well, I've had my business a while ago, but it was for 20 years. And I had a good business and I built it up. And I raised my prices above what other people were charging because I was well educated, I was well experienced, I was good at what I did, and I got results. And I decided I needed to reward myself for being better than those other people, more knowledgeable, more skilled, and more experienced. And I was, I was considerably more. And I thought that might stop people coming to me. Well, reduce the number of people coming to me, they would go to the other people I was employing or contracting to do some work for me. And it didn't work. It didn't, because I was busy. I had a lot of people and I thought, I'll put my prices up. Not everybody will stay with me. They'll go to the others. No, they didn't. They still wanted me. And so price didn't matter to them. Didn't matter at all. But I was getting what I was worth. And that made me feel good. And they were prepared to pay it. And I did good work for them. I've helped thousands of people. So, yeah.
And Kristine, another reason why you're memorable is because you're an award winner.
I don't know that people really care about that, do you think? I mean, yeah, I've won an award, doesn't matter, and I've got degrees, but that doesn't necessarily matter to people. I think I'm memorable because I'm different. And I think also...
I'm not decrying that, but I'm simply saying being recognised as Woman of the Year is more than just a degree. Okay, it's something that people can resonate with and think, wow, that must make you memorable.
I don't know. I didn't think it would matter that much to people.
That's because you're humble. That's why we love you. But I think it's also true. Anyway.
Well, thank you. All right. Well, I'll take that on board.
Food for thought.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, John. Yeah.
I was just going to say what Peter just said, Kristine, does make a difference to people. Because, again, when people check you out, they say, wow, she got the Woman of the Year award. She's obviously done something that a lot of others haven't. So,
I guess.
be proud of it.
Okay.
Tina, for example, she's
Oh no, he's frozen.
John? We'll remind you that you stop with your mouth open.
Oh,
You froze then, John.
oh, what I was going to say, with Tina moving up in the ranks of divorce coaching, does that mean she's for everybody? No. What it does mean, though, is the people that will be attracted to her recognize the value of the service she can provide.
Yeah.
And price isn't a big concern.
By the way, John, when you froze with your mouth open, which I thought was so poetic. When you're talking about the fact that we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, we should keep our mouth closed.
Hey, good Starlink.
At least you have Starlink.
Okay, we love you dearly, we know. Tina, makes you memorable? Let's not just only pride. What else makes you memorable?
Oh, when we have to talk about ourselves, I think that's the hardest part, you know. We can talk about our clients all day long, but when we go to talk about ourselves, which is the way it kind of should be, we shouldn't be pushing ourselves out there. So I can tell you the things that my clients have said about me. It's because they have that one-on-one care where I'm literally holding their hand. I mean, it's figuratively, but they're able to contact me 24/7 via text. And in some cases, I've jumped on the phone at 9:30 at night just for a 15-minute call to talk them off of a ledge or to get information that's needed for a mediation for the next day. So because I will basically bend over sideways to make sure that my client is taken care of. That's one of the things that my clients tell me is more memorable than when they worked with the other coaches.
Good, good. How often are you in a situation, Tina, when you are, to quote you, talking people off the ledge?
Oh, I talk somebody off the ledge at least once a week.
Wow, really? Really?
Yeah, the people that are going through these divorces, they'll get a text, a frantic text or a mean text or whatever from their soon-to-be ex that's blaming them for something, or their kids come home from school or their other parents and say all these things that happened, and so then they're freaking out. And my clients have been abused, so they right away go into that abused place in their head. And so they can't think straight, they can't make good decisions. So they need somebody to calm them down, back them off the ledge, and let them know that one, this too will pass, and two, we don't have to deal with it tonight. We can drop it like a gray rock, walk away from it tonight, and then we can deal with it when our brain is fresh and after sleep tomorrow.
That's pretty heavy responsibility and dedication on your part.
I've literally done this since I was probably around 13 years old with suicide people. I have always felt that we, when we're in that bad place, just need that somebody that can sit there with us and let us know that we're going to be okay. So I've done that. And then when I was 20, I went to Germany and I ended up with some war vets. And so I have literally held our vets in my arms while they've cried because they needed somebody there when they let go of the things that they were holding on inside of them. So it's good to talk to therapists, but sometimes it's just really good to know that there's somebody there that just cares and is willing to sit with you. And that's what I do with my clients.
Sometimes you don't necessarily need to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Just hold their hand or hug them, I guess, and hand on their shoulder or something.
Yeah.
That's pretty special. That's special.
I admire you. Wow. I'm not going to even try to follow up on that because it's way out of my depth. You are a mile in front of me. Goodness gracious. Alan, nice to see you, my man.
Hi, Peter. Hi, everybody.
What
Good to see
about you?
you all.
What makes you memorable? We all know you're a man of integrity. We all know that you're a man who knows the commercial real estate market, especially UK and in particular within the London area pretty well, right? But what
Right.
is
Yeah.
that
Sure.
makes you darn memorable?
Well, it's a difficult thing to put your finger on, but what I always try to be, and what I always am, as far as I'm aware, is truthful with people. Even if I can't help them, I always try to help them solve their problem. Always try to deal with things in an ethical way, so as to get a win-win solution. If someone's got a disadvantage or a weakness, I wouldn't go out of my way to exploit that. What I'd like to do every time is find an ethical win-win solution that solves the problem, gets the person I'm dealing with out of the problem they've got, whatever it is, and moves forward and transforms the situation, basically turns it round so that they can get out of their particular trap and free themselves from it. So yeah, but my sort of environment is usually sort of dealing with people who've got business problems, property problems in particular, and dealing with professionals in a more of a professional environment, rather than dealing with people's personal problems, where they may well be vulnerable because of what's happened to them. So I can only say I admire Tina tremendously for the work she does. It's absolutely amazing.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
I've got some. Let me just list these off quickly, because for those, not just for you here, but others who are watching the replay, this may trigger something, because as Kristine and Tina both said, it's not easy to talk about yourself like this, because no one wants to. Well, some people do. Some people love to brag, but most people don't like to brag like this, right? And we're not really saying you need to brag, but you need to be aware of what does make you memorable. Okay. And in Kristine's case, it was very obvious. One of the things that makes her memorable is not just the fact that she has been awarded, but she's also humble as well as.
Yes.
One thing that makes Tina memorable is the fact that she can go into a situation where very few people could feel at all comfortable, and sort and help someone walk off a ledge. I mean, not walk off a ledge, get them off the ledge. So I haven't the wrong words, right? But those things are incredible. And I had these things. For example, maybe what makes you memorable is you can do things quickly, maybe a fast turnaround time. These pale into insignificance compared to what Kristine and Tina just said, right? And what John said. And you, Alan. Maybe you're innovative. Maybe you've got unique solutions. Well, that's for sure, Tina, in your case, right? Maybe you've got cutting edge technology, something that is completely foreign to me, but maybe that's what you've got. I don't know, right? Maybe you're a one-stop shop. Makes you memorable. Maybe your whole business is built on trust. Maybe, if you like, Alan, it's built on not just trust, but on honesty. He made that point very clear. Maybe it's because you've got a proven track record. Maybe it's because you're absolutely passionate about what you do. I mentioned before the award-winning thing, which related to Kristine, and she accepted it, but in such a humble, beautiful way. I accept that. Maybe it's because you treat people like family. That makes you memorable. That makes you different. Maybe you're one of the most certified people ever, but that doesn't necessarily make you memorable, but it is one of the factors you've got. Or maybe because you're local and people can see you, shake you by the hand, give you a hug and talk to you, etc., right? They are some of the things I had in the back of my mind when it came to making us memorable. And we start off this whole conversation with John so really cleverly talking about another factor, which is price, that can make you memorable. So anyway.
There is one thing I would like to say, that in my case in particular, just because the evidence that's out in the market says that something is true doesn't make it right. It could be, but there might be some other way of doing something or a different explanation to that thing. And that's what I do that makes me a bit different. I don't just follow suit. I question if at all I think there could be something different or a different way of approaching a problem. I kind of think outside the box, and I like to challenge what's being said by people. You know what I mean? I don't just accept what somebody's telling me,
Mm.
because in my area it's about wellness, and so then we have the medical field and the doctors and all that. And some people just believe everything a doctor says, but doctors are not always right,
Mm.
you know? And so when I hear what somebody is suffering from and the type of treatment they're getting, I'm thinking, oh, I don't know that they need to do that, because if they did this and this and this, then that would change their situation and they wouldn't need to take drugs or whatever. You know, there are natural ways of doing things. So I like to challenge that, because I don't like to see people going through invasive operations or taking drugs, because that's fairly invasive too, because it always has side effects, adverse effects. And so I feel that makes me a bit different to other people, because I
That's-
challenge.
You're in the
That-
wellness, okay? And then I challenge all of you to think about this for a moment. Would you mind? You're in the wellness case, right? Alan, you're in the property area. Tina, you're in the divorce thing. John, you're in an area of which is all about trust and building small businesses, right? If you were asked to nominate someone who was memorable to you in your specific area, who would it be and why? Have a
Peter,
think
for
about
me,
that.
that's simple. Peter, for me, that's simple. You.
Oh, I wasn't okay. Well, thank you, but okay. And I
I'm
got
like, who
mine.
didn't see that coming?
I, for those watching the replay, that wasn't a set-up job. That's not
No.
what it. But really, it was an important. Thank you, John. It was an important question, right? An important question. Who is memorable to you in your space, and more importantly, why are they memorable? And that may help give you a clue about how you can position yourself. That's why I asked the question.
Ari Gelper. Ari Gelper for me is memorable because he teaches trust-based selling and marketing. Now, the other thing I'd like to bring up is Kristine had a very valid point. Just because something's done one way in an industry doesn't always make it right. I don't know if a lot of small business owners and business owners realize it. Change doesn't come from within an industry. It comes from outside the industry. Because if you look at it, most industries are, I think they call them silkworms or whatever. They walk around and around and around in a circle. And if one falls off dead, they just keep walking around in a circle. They don't change. That's what happens in so many industries. So when change happens, it comes from outside. It comes basically from another industry that said, hey, let's try that in this industry. I'll give you a prime example. Drive-through for fast food industry came from the banking industry. Banks had drive-through windows where you could go through and get your, do your banking drive-through. Well, the Big M and a few other companies saw that and said, geez, we could do that for the fast food industry. That's how drive-through for them got started. How the elevator on the outside of a building got solved was there was a high-rise hotel in California and they needed another elevator put in. And the only place that they had in this hotel to put it was right up through the cleaner's storage on each floor. Well, this cleaner didn't want to give up all his storage space, So he went to him and said, why don't you put the elevator on the outside of the building? That's how elevators ended up going on the outside of buildings.
Mhm.
It was done out of necessity for the cleaner to save his space. It wasn't because the hotel industry thought it would be great. So when you stop and look at your industry, take a look outside of what other industries are doing. How can you adapt that to your industry and make it different?
I'm so pleased you said that, John. If you check in the chat, because one of the things you say regularly and so correctly is fall in love with your prospects' problems, not your solutions, right? And we learnt that from Arigalpa. But you know what? Now I know where Arigalpa got it from. It's in the chat. We all learn from everybody, right? This guy, year 11. Anyway, I interrupt you because Alan, you had your hand up before, and so please, over to you.
Yeah, Peter, I may have mentioned this person before, but there's one person I've had the good fortune to work for and with, who's a very well thought of leader in the infrastructure industry in the UK. He is basically a manager of procurement of the built environment. So if there's anything that needs managing, then this person, Simon Wright, is very capable, more than capable of doing it. And he's a most unusual guy because he is able to analyze quite complex situations and decide on strategies for actually solving the particular problems, and he's managed in his track record in the past to deliver quite major projects within time and budget. And certainly one of the ways I've heard him described is that he would be able to sell fridges to Eskimos, but he's not what you would perceive as a natural salesman. He's not an outgoing sort of sales extrovert. He's more of an influencer and a persuader of people. So he'll take groups of people and he'll influence their decision making, or he'll persuade them to do a certain course of action. So some people have got very highly skilled sort of characters, and he is absolutely one of them. And because he's totally ethical as well, that would be one person I would mention as someone who I have great respect for.
Good. Thank you, Alan.
Yes, it's quite important because sometimes with these massive projects, there are massive amounts of money at stake. And, you need someone at the controls who people trust and, who has a track record of delivery of value in these sort of circumstances, rather than a track record of, breaking budgets and non-delivery and so on.
Makes sense to me. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Who's next?
So I'll go next. So one of the people in my area is a divorce coach as well, and that's Susan Bernstein, and she was one of my first mentors. And so I strive to work towards her. I used her I guess map of how she got to where she's at. And there was some stuff in there that didn't work for me, that just didn't feel as good. Like, she only does hour work with her clients. And because of the way I work with my clients, I like and shifted to the they can pay for a group of months with me, and then they get to have me not just once a week, but I recommend once a week. They can have me clear up to 7 times that week if they're going through a mediation or in crisis. And we can talk for anywhere from 15 minutes to 45 minutes during those shorter sessions. And I do recommend my clients once a week. But Susan, she's the top divorce coach right now. And she she's done a lot of different things that I am working towards building in that direction with her. She's in a different area than I am. She's in New York, where I'm in South Carolina, and those are some of the things that are a little bit different. So I have to travel further to in-person meetings where she doesn't have to travel as much. But by having somebody that you're reaching up to be like, that makes a huge difference. And then the other people beyond her that I might look at are attorneys as opposed to divorce coaches, because the attorneys, then there are attorneys that work very similar to me. They're way more expensive than what I am, but they care so much about their clients. And those people, in their realm, it's about making sure that their life is balanced, because they lean a little bit too far over into the law. And so when I working with them, I'm lucky enough to see how they're having to get that balance back in their life. So there's different things that I look at when I look at people that I aspire to be more like.
Was Susan the one that was on a podcast that that yeah, I was almost in tears watching her. Was that the same lady?
How long ago did you watch that?
Maybe 2 weeks ago.
It could have been Susan. I've had a couple of people. The most recent
It's an
one, which was
incredible
last
story.
Thursday, was
Yeah.
Carol, and she could have brought you to tears. Carol's
Could have
story
been
was,
Carol. Yeah, could
I
have
would
been
say
her.
it was Carol's story. Carol
Yeah.
has a very hard story to tell, and it was a very good story on that podcast. But yeah, I'm sure it was Carol's story. But I have interviewed Susan too.
Yeah. No, you're right. Once you mentioned the word Carol, that's who it was, Carol. That was an
Mhm.
incredible story. Wow.
Yes, it was a very difficult story for her. She wasn't planning on telling that story, and I asked her before we filmed, "Are you willing to share your story?" Because she had already shared it with me. And so during that, and I think you watched, it brought us both to tears at least twice, if not three times.
I watched it on YouTube. I even left a long comment on there. I don't know whether you saw it, but
I
you
haven't
know,
got into YouTube yet. So
anyway, enough of that. Thank you very much, Tina.
thank you.
What about you, John? What other thoughts have you got, my man? I mean, you were very smart about the price issue, but what else in your mind makes people memorable?
Basically, you have to be able to get down to a prospect's real problem, because if you can't get down to their real problem, and everybody's heard me say this many, many times, people don't buy when they understand you. They buy when they feel understood. So you have to make that prospect, that client, feel understood. You know, if you just listen to what Tina was saying about being on all these calls with people, talking them off a ledge, it's being able to do those things. If you just look at the surface problem, not the real problem, you're not going anywhere. You know, take a look at Alan, for example. If he had to deal with some of these property owners, yes, they want to sell their building and they want a good price for it. And like Alan said, they've had people that they haven't been the highest offer, but the person has gone with them because they resonated with Alan and what they were doing. So you have to be able to do this with your prospects and clients. The reason
Yeah.
that lady went with Alan is she understood what he understood what she wanted the building to be for. Not just that they wanted to go in and renovate it and make something else. That lady had an idea what she wanted the building for. You know,
Mhm.
Kristine does the same thing with people that come to her for help. You do the same thing, Peter. You're great at getting to a person's real problem. So that's the whole key, is get to their real problem. Have that person feel understood. That's what makes you memorable. Now, as you say yourself, Peter, some of these moments aren't always the best for them. They aren't always the pie in the sky and lovey-dovey and all that. It can be that they realize they have a serious challenge in an area. But you have to be honorable and authentic and vulnerable to your prospects and your clients. They have to see you as a real person, and you see them as real people as well.
It's interesting, John. Just today, I had a conversation with this. Let's not call him a potential client. This was a middle-aged lady who of the highest integrity. She reminded me of you, Alan, in many ways because she's totally honest, right? And yet she was not honest. She was honest with everybody, okay? Everybody except herself, right? Because she just could not accept the fact that she had imposter syndrome to start with. She also she doubted the value that she could bring to people, but she was good. She was so good at this, right? But the reason why she felt she wasn't good is because she was scared to try and work out how to get visible enough to make people see that she was good without being salesy. That was so she thought, I won't do any of that. I just hope like mad I'll put content on LinkedIn and they'll come to me. But it's never going to work, right? That's the point. So we had this long discussion today about that. So I can resonate with you, John. And Alan, why I was smiling at before is because I mentioned one of the factors that make people memorable could be fast turnaround time. And I'm thinking about you and your lawyers, right? And they are sure not fast turnaround time people. And that means one
No.
factor for you, Alan Edwards, that makes you memorable, you are bloody patient.
Yes, yeah, out of necessity.
You must be.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, any other thoughts, or would you want to call it quits?
One of the memorable
Got his
is
house up.
how you make them feel. And when you make that person feel understood, that's all the difference in the world, because there's so many people that just wait to say something. As soon as you quit talking, they want to put their 2 cents worth in. They don't really care what you said. They want to get their 2 cents worth in. So if you want to be memorable, make it all about them. They don't give a rat's ass about you, your program, your solution. They want to know, can you solve my problem? And when you talk to them about that, that's what's going to make you memorable.
Good point. Good point. Any other thoughts before we call it off for the day? Because I appreciate it. Kristine?
I was just going to say that a lot of people in businesses or in the wellness industry, particularly, I'm referring to, but people tend to treat symptoms, and that doesn't help people. I mean, it might ease the problem a little, but it doesn't fix the problem because the root cause hasn't been addressed and dealt with. So, you know, that if you treat the root cause and the symptoms, obviously you're going to make that situation better. You're going to fix it, right? And that will get results. And when you get results, then obviously you get a name, don't you? And that then obviously helps with other people, because then you get word of mouth. And that's how I ran my business previously. And I know I'm good at all the things that I do. And I'm talking about business-wise and wellness-wise, because people in business, if things aren't running the way they should be and the problems in the business and they're reactive, that affects people's wellness too, and so you've got to fix the system problems first to help people feel better and deal with the stress. And you can give the people, strategies that can help their stress, but you've really got to get rid of the root cause that's causing their stress.
Kristine, in your case, would those root causes sometimes come down to habits?
They definitely do. Habits and behaviors.
Mm,
Yeah, absolutely.
mm,
Yep, that's a big part of it. But it's also other things like the food that's available, such as processed foods and foods that have very little nutritional value that are
yeah.
there for people's convenience. But that's what's making people sick. You know what I mean? So there are other causes, but people have this habitual behavior and they don't realize how it's affecting them.
Good
Yeah.
point. Good point.
Kristine, don't tell Big Pharma about just working on symptoms. They'll go broke.
Well, that'd be good, wouldn't it?
All right. Thank you, everybody. I found that very enlightening, and I appreciate your honesty in the way that you shared. And Tina and Kristine in particular, you two ladies are quite incredible. You make people like Alan and John and I feel, whew, we need to pick up our game, because you guys are running at a completely
You're
different
kidding,
way.
Peter. You're a real gentleman and you are kind and giving. So don't
Amen.
undersell yourself. You told us not to, so you know.
Just shut up. Thank you, Kristine. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Ciao.
Peter. Thanks, everyone.
Not
Cheers.
everyone.